In 1960, John Kennedy defeated Richard Nixon for the President of the United States. A loaf of bread cost 20 cents. Gordie Howe became the leading scorer in the NHL. The first episode of Coronation Street was broadcast. And the average cost of a new house in 1960 was $12,700. Oh, and Gesstwood Camp was built in the spring and ready for its first campers in July. So today I'd like to share with you a story of the camp, the strong bond with our church, and where the camp is today. Actually, this picture was taken in 1958 on the third concession of Colchester South. It shows a group of presbytery members looking at a piece of property that they wanted to purchase. Unfortunately, local residents had other thoughts, and having a camp as their neighbor was not one of them. Soon after, a group of 3 men, including my father-in-law, Max Calhoun, put in an offer to purchase the present property on the Mole Side Road in the former Colchester North. We've all heard the expression that Rome wasn't built in a day, but Gesstwood almost was. During the 50s and 60s, churches were full, and money and labor were plentiful. Construction began in the spring, and the first camp began in July 1960. My wife, Beth, was one of the first campers, and her dad, Max, began serving the next 20 years as chair of the property committee at the camp. Funds were raised through Essex Presbytery, and volunteer labor erected most of the buildings. The early visionaries of the camp realized the camp needed a pool. This is the only picture we have of the original pool. It appears to be made of steel, and if you look closely on the left, you can see my wife, still a young teenager. This shot shows the floor of the lodge with Beth and her mom and dad, along with Hazel Colnut and her family. Over the camp's history, pools have been an issue. Sulfur water and its corrosion characteristics, along with other problems, led us to replace the original pool on 2 other occasions. However, regardless of what pool we used, one thing they all had in common: cold water, which we've been looking at recently. Over the years, many of us have been involved with the camp, but probably the AOTS Men's Club has been the longest contributor. One visible sign of their presence is their sponsorship of cabin number 4. We have 10 cabins at the camp, and having a church adopt a building, cleaning and repairing it as the need arises, is invaluable. In the late 60s, before I became a teacher, I was a mechanical draftsman. I was asked by my father-in-law to design a bell tower, so I drew it, and stonemason John Ferber from Harrow built it. One winter, between Christmas and New Year's, Elwood and Eugene Defour, along with their dad, gave a gift of a new roof on the potato hut. It was a wonderful gift. It was also a cold time of the year to be putting a roof on a hut, and I remember I was so surprised that Eugene came all the way down from, I believe he lives in Barrie, and his Christmas present wasn't to sit around the campfire, but was to put on coveralls and go up on a roof with his brother and build us a roof. Several years ago, the men's club once again volunteered to replace all the beds and fabricated them from our wood shop behind the church. And the list goes on. From building and repairing picnic tables to siding our director's cabin, we can't thank the AOTS club enough. And we caught up. Thank you. 3 years ago, after Ken Salter from Essex did the engineering and provided the steel for a new bridge over the canard at the south end of the property, I was asked to find 5 people who would lay a wooden walkway across the steel. I made 5 phone calls, and I had 5 volunteers, all from Harrow. The chapel was built in 2010 with a gift from Gwen Salter. We had it completed just in time for our 50th anniversary. Once again, we had lots of volunteers, including those from Harrow. And last year, we raised the trail to the Ropes and Chapel Bridge to prevent flooding that we experience every year. Once again, volunteer labor and generous gifts help make this possible. Other families have pitched in, particularly on spring cleaning days. So there are many examples. There are just so many examples. I can't possibly name them all. But you've probably heard the commercial, "We're father and son, we do it all." Well, I'm particularly pleased to have volunteers that make it a family affair. For example, the Mantle Clan, with Don serving as director from many years ago when he didn't have gray hair, followed by Barry, who was our chair of the board at Gesstwood in the late 90s. And their kids and Barry's wife all helped, but this picture of Sue shows what camping is really all about. The same can be said about Denny Lacao, Camille Defour, and their kids too, and the list just goes on and on. And I know I've missed people, but that's part of writing something down. You've got to stop somewhere. So where are we now? Well, 2 years ago, we expanded our program to include the ropes elements. And once again, it was a gift. But if you put a dollar figure on it, the gift was worth more than $100,000. And I'd like to show you a brief video showing the program and its potential. Sometime.
Today out here at the course, we're all one team. There isn't winners or losers. We're not going to break off into two separate teams. We're all one, cooperating with each other, participating with each other, and helping each other out.
This Challenges for Success Ropes course, made possible by a grant from Human Resources Development Canada, is set in a beautiful Carolinian oak forest just half an hour outside of Windsor. A ropes course can be defined as a series of elements made up of ropes, wood, and cables. It involves supervised challenges that promote group and individual achievement. The wilderness setting provides a refreshing break from everyday life and allows everyone to focus on the task at hand. The entire course consists of both low and high elements. The low elements are usually less than 3 feet from the ground. The high elements offer a perceived risk versus actual risk and are built from 20 to 50 feet above the ground. The high elements are used in conjunction with climbing ropes, inspected safety harnesses, and helmets. The participant will also be attached to an inspected belay system. When you book a day at our ropes course, we will ask you questions about your group's needs. We then customize your day around this knowledge. Most programs are designed for team building, leadership development, coaching, personal development, problem solving, self-esteem, trust, and positive risks. The philosophy of experiential learning asserts that the lessons learned from a concrete experience are more real and personal than anything derived solely from traditional learning. Our activities and initiatives relate directly to experience that individuals and teams have to deal with in their daily lives. While working together on the course, participants experience enhanced communication, trust, and cooperation. Unfamiliar roles and new group dynamics are explored as team members share the frustration of problem solving, as well as the pride in succeeding. Individuals improve their understanding of themselves and colleagues, and teams are able to recognize and deal with task, process, and relationship issues.
The encouragement was good, and when you guys helped me get my rope unhooked there when I got caught up was good to allow me to get to the top. Thanks a lot. No problem.
So who comes to Gesstwood now? Well, in the 1960s, almost all of the children came from United Church families in Essex Presbytery. Today, approximately 60% do not indicate any church affiliation, and for those that do, 60% of those are Roman Catholic. So the group dynamics at summer camp has changed enormously over the last 50 some odd years. How many of you think it's going to be busier next week when we start summer camp? How many think we won't be? Okay, well, let's take a look at the spring statistics right now. Our spring program begins on May the 1st, and this is current up to last June 18th, middle of last week. In the first thing, our ropes program, we had 2,597 people attend our ropes program. Moving on, the school program, which is our driving engine, we had 1,402 school children arrive between May and last week. And then there was 500 additionals that participated in a combination of the ropes and the spring program that we run. Now, we still have a week to go, so let's look at the next week, the week coming up right now. We have 311 people still expected to come on Monday, Tuesday, or Wednesday. And the OPP does provide the VIP program, and we have 330 of those. So all total, so far this year, from the beginning of May, 5,730. Now, you take away that 5,730, which we haven't had before, and you say, is there a reason for Gesstwood? Can Gesstwood survive? What's going to happen to Gesstwood? It's probably the only United Church institution in Essex County that's growing, if you think about it. That wasn't on my script. I just thought of that. So you can see the spring program and also the fall program, which is a little smaller, far exceed the numbers we have during summer camp. Summer camp, by the way, we run about 330 to 350 for a full camp session for the entire summer. Now, granted, they come at 50 and 60 strong, and they stay for about a week at a time. One thing you can remember, one fact I think we'll remember, if anybody ever asks you, oh, the Gesstwood is really busy now, you know, we're in the middle of the summer. Well, our busy season for Gesstwood is really May until November. And then we actually get some time to do some repairs. And finally, I'd like to share a recent development at the camp. 2 of our cabins have now been winterized, which will allow for winter retreats. We are hoping to winterize a couple more in the next few years. So this is something we're always planning to move ahead, and we do it very slowly, but over the last 3 years, we've managed to winterize 2 cabins. Gesstwood Camp is now 53 years old, and that's good news. And that's also the bad news. It's good because the camp is well used. We serve many people in Essex County and beyond with quality programming in a setting that just can't be duplicated in a town or a city. It's bad, however, because almost everything we see at the camp is more than 50 years old. And just like our homes, it requires constant repairs and replacement. But without the availability of people and resources that we had 53 years ago. This becomes our greatest challenge. And Gesstwood thanks you for your continued support over the years. And I hope it will continue in the future. And I just thought of something else, which it was not in my script, but it was something. You know, we talk about methods of fundraising. We just completed one of the most successful fundraisings at all. And I don't golf. Barry golfs and his crew, we've seen him up there before. The fundraiser for that golf tournament raised just a few dollars under $10,000 for that one day of golf. So the money's out there. We just have to find creative ways to get it. And I had no idea how much a golf tournament would make, $400 or $500, no idea. But no, it makes a lot of money. So hope to see you on the golf course next year, and I'll be there, not with my clubs, but to take your pictures. Thank you. Let us pray. Gracious God, as we think of you, we are reminded that we are a small part in the web of life. Thank you for your many gifts to us. Today we thank you especially for the ministry of camping and the dedicated people who work so hard on behalf of this ministry. We remember in our prayers the campers, children and adults who arrive, some anxious or troubled, and leave with songs in their hearts. We remember the people who create the programs, tell bedtime stories, teach songs, sing songs, cook the meals, wipe away tears, bandage scraped knees. Bless them and help us to help them. Amen.